Welcome back to another FPL video. This will be the updated version of the wildcard in Gameweek 21. There are plenty of changes from the original video. Be sure to check that out as well. And if this edition gets to over 200 likes, there'll be a rating your teams video. And all you would have to do is go to the FPL website on your phone, tablet, or laptop. Go to the FPL website, go to the points section, and in the URL, there will be a number and there'll be a user ID. Put that in the comment section down below and I can use it in FPL.team and assess your transfer plans and talk about the best possible routes for the next couple of weeks with so many blanks, doubles coming up fairly soon, and also much to consider, such as selling Salah and Son, the best replacements for this week, when to buy them back in, and much more. There's a lot to talk about, and I'll try to give you some brief analysis for each of those teams as well. And then, of course, an update team selection could be possible if my transfer plans take a turn in the next couple of days. The original video is already out on the channel as well. The deadline stream, of course, at the weekend. There's so much content headed your way, so be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. We're trying to get to 23k subscribers very soon. But without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. I'll keep it simple between the sticks and go for two cheap options. In Dubravka, who's facing Manchester City this week, you don't want to play him at all. I know he got a big return at Anfield, but you're really relying on penalty saves or multiple saves and a man of the match performance like he did the other day to really justify starting him in Gameweek 21. I don't think he'll do much this week, but there are some good fixtures coming up for Newcastle, and that's where you could start Dubravka over any other goalkeeper, including Areola, who right now is the best goalkeeper in the game, and that's why he's in this team. I mean, just a month ago, I was desperate to get rid of Areola, but 29 points in the last 3 game weeks. He's got some good fixtures coming up too. Sheffield United away is a great fixture on paper in Gameweek 21, and you can't really think of many goalkeepers who look better in terms of the points potential amongst goalkeepers in this upcoming deadline. So I've gone for Areola and Dubravka, a minimal amount spent on this position, roughly 8.4 million. And it should work well in terms of rotation and how the fixtures pan out for Newcastle and West Ham United. If you want some alternative goalkeeper picks, I would still go for the usual suspects, Alisson, David Raya, and Emi Martinez, simply for the fixtures there for Aston Villa, but I don't trust them defensively. So if you're not going for Dubravka or Areola, you want a different option between the sticks, it's probably just Alisson or Raya at this moment in time. It's slim pickings in the defensive line at the moment. Trippier isn't really an option right now with some poor fixtures coming up. Of course, the long-term fixtures for Newcastle are quite good, but it doesn't really warrant an inclusion in this team, especially given Trippier's lack of form. Now, you could say the same about Saliba and Arsenal defenders, as Arsenal have 1 victory in the last 7 games across all competitions and only 1 clean sheet, which came against Brighton. But Saliba, for me, isn't justifying that price tag. I think there are 3 or 4 standout defenders, but the 5th option, it becomes a bit difficult, and I will list some alternatives very soon. But Saliba is in here for now. I would back Arsenal to keep some clean sheets and recover from this really horrid run, but there's still some tough fixtures coming up there for Arsenal, and I don't see that many clean sheets or returns for all Arsenal players, and it's going to be difficult to envisage how they come back from this, but you never know. Football is full of surprises, and a week is definitely a long time in the Premier League and in Premier League football. The second defender I'm going for is Gusto as your cheap defender option, 4.2 million, and I think it offers pretty good value. Chelsea still have some good fixtures, and particularly in the home games, you could start Gusto. He can get an attack and return and potentially some bonus points like he did against Crystal Palace, but don't really expect much from Gusto. He's not someone you want to start week in, week out, but he offers you a bit of squad depth and also some bonus points potential for such a cheap defender. Now, an alternative at his price would be Dan Burn, and in terms of clean sheets, I would back Newcastle to also be better than Chelsea in the near future, but there are also some tough games in the next 2 against Man City and Aston Villa. And with Dubravka already in goal, I'm not a big fan of that defensive dugout for Newcastle this season because it's been a long while since I've been confident in them. Maybe at St James's Park they can keep some clean sheets and be solid, but away from home, it's just been a season-long trend of not keeping clean sheets, losing most Premier League matches, and it simply hasn't been good enough. The third defender is Trent Alexander-Arnold. It makes complete sense. The only issue with this inclusion is that it makes it difficult to buy back Salah and Son around Gameweek 25, which is when most people will look to buy them back in, especially if Liverpool have a double game week. But Trent, of course, would have that as well, and that would be a huge advantage for him. him. And for me, Trent is by far the best defender in the game, and you don't want to miss out on these opportunities. So buy Trent, even if it's going to be a bit of a pain to buy back certain players you want to buy back in, and it might incur some -4 hits. It doesn't really matter. I still think Trent is worth every single penny. The same goes for Pedro Porro for Spurs. You already know my feelings about him. Attacking potential, bonus points, set pieces. He has the lot. The clean sheets, not so much, but that's not a big issue considering the fact that not many teams are keeping a consistent run of clean sheets this season, especially in the last month or so. The final defender is probably one of the standout options at this moment in time, and that is Estupiñán. Despite Brighton not being the best defensively, and they won't keep many clean sheets overall, Estupiñán, a bit similar to Pedro Porro, attack and returns, bonus points, and I also think Estupiñán is just a generally exciting pick. And since he's returned from injury, he scored against Tottenham, kept the clean sheet against West Ham, and scored in the FA Cup. So for me, Estupiñán is almost a must-have in the defensive line, and I might even buy him this week. Phil Foden is only growing into the season, scoring in all competitions, the FA Cup, the Champions League and the Premier League, and this is finally the time where Pep Guardiola seems to trust him, and Foden is delivering on a consistent basis. He's performing well even beyond goals and assists, but of course in FPL we all care about the goals and assists for the FPL points, and Foden is doing quite well in the last couple of weeks. Now there are some concerns about De Bruyne coming off the bench in the FA Cup and registering an assist, but De Bruyne himself admitted that he doesn't expect to start against Newcastle away, and it might take some time for him to get that consistent run of games that he might have gotten last season. So Foden for me is completely safe anyway, and De Bruyne is primarily competing with Alvarez for a spot in that Man City side. I think Foden can coexist with De Bruyne and Erling Haaland once both of them are fully fit and available. So Foden for me is probably one of the top 3 Salah or Son replacements, and he would go up to second if Jared Bowen is injured and we need to look elsewhere. Now the second midfielder and another good Salah or Son replacement would be Richarlison. It might seem a bit strange to say that, but he has been impressive recently. He's got good underlying numbers, and there is of course the potential signing of Timo Werner. That seems imminent for Tottenham Hotspur. That shouldn't affect Richarlison in the meantime, and whilst Heung-min Son is unavailable, Richarlison will start most games, if not all, be on penalties potentially, and be a good FPL asset for the next 3, 4 or 5 game weeks. So I wouldn't be too concerned with Richarlison. He's kind of a short to medium term punt. I wouldn't expect him to be a season long keep, but for the meantime, I think Richarlison's absolutely fine. If you want to go for more of a differential from a better team, then you can go for Diogo Jota, but Richarlison for me is still absolutely fine and could be a good option for the next month or so. The third midfielder is Cole Palmer. That's a no-brainer for me. He's probably the best Salah or Son replacement, period. If you don't have him, what are you waiting for? Even in the tougher fixtures, Palmer can deliver, as he has done against Manchester United, Spurs, Arsenal and Manchester City, and of course it is Liverpool away very soon, but there's also games like Fulham at home where Palmer could do very well and maybe not reach 18 points like he did against Luton Town, but he could do something similar and get double-digit returns. And for a 5.6 million midfielder, wherever his price is right now, it doesn't matter. He just absolutely breaks that value by some distance, and he's absolutely worth it. I'm still going for Jared Bowen despite the yellow flag. He picked up an injury against Bristol City in the FA Cup. He scored early on in the game, but during stoppage time towards the end of the match, he did pick up an injury and he had to be carried off at the very end. So that is a concern. If Bowen is injured, of course, I did list some replacements already, like Diogo Jota. You can go for him and it wouldn't be a big concern, but let's just keep an eye out for what the latest injury updates are. We might not get one from David Moyes until after the deadline since it's such a long game week, but let's wait and see how it all pans out. The final midfielder will be Pascal Gross for Brighton. With those fixtures coming up, he got 2 assists in the FA Cup. And what I like about Pascal Gross is that he's a bonus points machine. When he gets a goal or assist, he's very likely to get in and amongst the bonus points, and that means his ceiling is very high. So I've gone for this midfield 5. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Another big absentee would be Bukayo Saka, and like I said with Saliba, I would expect Arsenal to bounce back. So if you can find a way to make it work with your budget and you want to buy Saka, that's absolutely fine. And for those that have Saka, I would hold him in your normal teams. But on a wild card, I would be tempted to go against the crowd, as Saka is the most popular option at the moment in FPL. He's by far the highest owned, with Watkins and Haaland in second and third. But this midfield 5 offers you some differentials from 5 different teams, and they can all do very well on a consistent basis. Erling Haaland wasn't in the squad against Huddersfield as Man City won 5-0 in the FA Cup, and Pep Guardiola said before that game that Haaland remains a doubt for Gameweek 21 against Newcastle United. So Haaland is still an issue, but if you are wildcarding right now and you want to have Haaland for Game Week 22 against Burnley at home, it doesn't make sense to wildcard and not have Haaland and then take a -4 hit in Game Week 22 in order to make that move. I don't think there are many alternatives in the forward position or in the midfield to really make that worthwhile, especially with Salah Son unavailable due to AFCON and the Asian Cup. So I would keep Haaland. If he does miss out against Newcastle, you could just bench him, but have him ready and primed for Game Week 22. So that is my thinking. If you are wildcarding this week, I would still go for Erling Haaland and have him as a placeholder. In a couple of weeks' time, you could always sell him and then use those funds to buy back Salah and Son at the same time, whilst keeping the likes of Trent in your FPL team. The second forward is Ollie Watkins. Very simple stuff. I'm not going to overcomplicate it. Some alternatives do include Ivan Toney. I still think he's a good shout, but Watkins for me is by far the best option in FPL in the forward line right now, up until Haaland is available and can start games on a consistent basis. The final forward is Solanke. He's got 3 tough games in the next 5, but he is fixture proof. He can do well in any given game, and especially in those plum fixtures, he's got a very high ceiling. He's obviously offering great value at his price, and I do like Solanke still. Bournemouth might struggle a little bit and go on a bad run, lose some games, but Solanke can still get some attacking returns in the process, and this is my favourite front three at this moment in time, and you could see this being your front three until the end of the season. In this segment, I'll be using FPL Team to determine the starting 11, the captaincy, and talking about some alternatives in each position. Areola would be in goal over Dubravka. I think that's a no-brainer considering the fixtures. Estupiñán, Trent and Saliba would be the back three. Bowen, Foden, Palmer and Gross would be the midfield four, with Solanke, Haaland and Watkins up front. The bench would be Dubravka, Gusto, Richarlison and Pedro Porro. Some of you may want to start Richarlison over Solanke or go for Gusto, and that's absolutely fine. Play it the way you want, but I think I'd go for this starting 11 with this 15-man squad. The expected points is 59.5 and I've got 1.2 million in the bank. In terms of my overall squad value, it is 105, but with selling prices taken into account, it would be roughly 102.7 million. But in terms of the captaincy, it's between Bowen, Palmer and Trent for me, and at this moment in time I would favour Bowen, but that injury is a concern, and if it's still a problem by the time we get to the deadline, I would probably switch to captaincy to Cole Palmer. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. The expected points would go down. One thing that's worth mentioning is that West Ham do play deep into Game Week 21, so there's plenty of time for Bowen to recover, and if you're asking me, I think he will be fine, and that's why he is currently my captain for my team selection. But it's just worth mentioning, if he isn't available and if he's a doubt, anything like that, then Palmer would be a great substitution for the captaincy, and Trent is not that far behind in the defensive position. In terms of alternatives in each position, I'd also say in goal it would be Raya, Alisson and Martinez. Maybe Alisson in first place for the best goalkeeper alternatives. In the defence it would be Walker, Burn, Trippier, Van Dijk, Gabriel and either Mikalenko or Tarkowski. So that'll be kind of the top 5. Some of them are grouped together, especially those from the same team. So Burn and Trippier would be one of those, and Mikalenko and Tarkowski is another. In terms of midfielders, Saka is definitely by far the best midfielder that we don't have in this team that's available right now. I'd also say Jota is in second place, Gordon in third, Douglas Luiz in fourth, and Pedro Neto in fifth once he's fully fit and available, and that should be very soon. I would anticipate him being available in Game Week 21. And the final one, the forwards, Ivan Toney is my favourite forward that's not in this squad. Then it's Cunha, Alvarez, João Pedro and Isak would be fifth. Now I have to say João Pedro could be higher in this list, maybe even above Alvarez and Cunha, but I have been impressed by Cunha's consistency, and whilst De Bruyne and Haaland aren't fully fit and available, Alvarez will do a good job for Man City and get some attacking returns in the meanwhile. But once De Bruyne and Haaland are back, he would go down that list, and I think João Pedro could be a great alternative in the forward position. And that's pretty much it. I wrapped it up with the substitutions, the captaincy, and also talking about the injury updates for Jarrod Bowen. Let's wait and see what else we get before the deadline. Hopefully get some concrete information so we can have some clarity there. And there are many doubles and blanks coming up which we have to think about as well. So if you go for Kyle Walker instead of Saliba, for example, you might have a lot of players blanking in Game Week 29, and the same goes for Game Week 26 for the likes of Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea assets, etc. There's a lot to consider in the coming weeks, but this wildcard team will set you up very well, and you've got a lot of squad depth to deal with any blank game weeks and also injuries and suspensions. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this video to 200 likes, and let's keep on pushing towards 23k subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, and the FPL League. All of that is there. I wish you all the best of luck for Gameweek 21 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.